Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Conversations with Ron Richardson, the podcast at my house. And I would like to welcome one of my favorite people, one of the men who have influenced me really, really heavily in my radio career, Mr. Hal Clark. Hal Clark is a author, playwright, radio extraordinaire, and most of all, my radio mentor and the man who kind of shaped me and molded me into the radio and podcast host that I am today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Good morning. How you doing, Ron? Thank you
How
for
you
having
doing,
me.
man? How you been?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm doing well, doing well, man. Busy, just getting ready for this play coming up, but
Yes, sir.
that's part of it. It's a lot of fun.
Right, right, right. So I gave you a brief introduction, man, but I want you to do your own honors, and I want you to tell my listening and viewing audience, what you got going on. So take it away.
Yeah, sure. Howard Ellis Clark. I'm here kind of talking a bit about the new play that I have coming up over at Petit Theatre. It's going to debut
Hmm.
August 13th through the 16th, and it's called Ganking Mr Guidry. And the
Okay.
play is set in the year 1878. So we can talk a little bit more about that as he gets going here. Thank you.
All right, man. So I want you to touch on the significance of the play and most of all, why you wrote it.
Yeah, appreciate that, Ron. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I had this visit to the Whitney Plantation in 2018, and the Whitney Plantation is located in the Whitney Parish in Wallace, Louisiana.
Hmm.
And I tell people that I reluctantly went to the Whitney Plantation, and I say that in that vein because my grandparents on the mother's side were actually born in the year 1898, and
Really?
while they
Okay.
were not right? And while they were not born into slavery, they actually passed down some of the stories in terms of the impact of slavery on our families. So I had sort of a keen understanding of
Hmm.
slavery's impact from a personal standpoint. So I kind of went into the Whitney plantation with a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, what is the Whitney going to tell me about slavery that I don't already know? And when
Right.
I got there, I mean, I was just blown away by the entire experience, just the way that they really treat the experience in a true fashion. And one of the parts of the exhibit surrounds the 1811 Louisiana Slave Rebellion. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, this is when 500 enslaved individuals decided to rise up against the injustice that they were encountering. So they had this march and were trying to get to New Orleans, and I believe it was stopped around Kenner.
Hmm.
And the insurrection was brutally put down by a militia, and many of the leaders and participants of that particular insurrection, they were actually beheaded. Their heads
Mm.
were put on hold around the town where they came from and around the slave quarters in the areas where they were enslaved. So that just
Hmm.
really had a profound effect on me. And so I got in the car, and writing is a very, very spiritual quest for me. And so I just heard that whisper saying, Harold, you're going to write something about this. And so,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah. So you know, talking to you, and I've seen a couple of newscasts that you have been on. Pushing the play out there. You have some really heavy hitters in the city of New Orleans that are, going to be starring in the play and going to be participating in the play. So why don't you touch on, some of those guys and the different characters.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it very much. And first of all, John Grimsley, who I've been working with since about maybe 2011, 2012, is
Hmm.
going to direct this play. He's also going to design the set. John is an award-winning set designer. Every production I've had with John, people will walk into the theater and like, oh my goodness, wow, this is absolutely beautiful. So really
Hmm.
happy to be working with John again. And fortunately, many of the actors who are participating in this play, I've worked with over the years as well. So I'll start off with ladies first. Nicole Collins. I worked with her in the radio business. But then
Yes.
in 2012, for my play, Pictures of Men, she actually did some voiceover work for that particular play. And she's going
Mm.
to portray the only woman in the cast whose name is Rowena. And Rowena is named after a long deceased relative of mine. Then we'll
Hmm.
move to Martin Bass Bradford. Bass is, gosh, just one of the best actors in the world. There's no question about it. He's got this
Well known brother.
amazing,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, gosh. And so He's going to play one of the main characters. His name is Junie, and Junie is sort of the rebel there. He's the one who
Mm-hmm.
really not going to say too much, and so that's really bringing a lot of good things to this play as we continue on with rehearsals. And I've worked with that about 3 or 4 times. Al
And
Aubrey, yeah,
he was in Fishes and Men
he
also,
was
right?
he was in Fishes of Men. He was in my play back in the day that debuted in 2023. So yeah, happy to
Mm-hmm.
work with that. We did a few other productions of Fishes of Men that he was in as well. Al Aubrey, this will be about my 4th time working with Al. Al is a consummate actor. He worked primarily with the Anthony Dean Community Theater. Did all of the plays that the late August Wilson wrote. Al is going to play the character by the name of Graylin, and Graylin was a former soldier in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Army who came from Dakota country back to his home state of Louisiana. And we also have Kenneth Brown Jr. I've worked with Kenneth Brown Jr. a few times as well. Most famously, back in 2017, he starred along with Harold Sylvester in a play called Tour du Tour, a father and son drama. And so Kenneth is going to play the character by the name of Sammy. And Sammy is the one who's the dreamer. Sammy has this globe that he has with him all the time. And so he all utilizes that globe to kind of get in the mindset. It's like one day I'm going to get out of Louisiana and just explore the entire world. So that's pretty much the character of Sammy. And then we have Raheem Glasby, multi-talented individual. I think recently he was named one of the Gambit magazine's 40 under 40. I got
40
that
under 40,
wonderful
yes.
great actor, excellent singer, and overall entertainer. And Raheem is really going to play the character called Purnell. And Purnell is just sort of like his first time really getting into some serious full-time work. And so he's very, very shy, not very,
Mm-hmm.
very sure of himself, etc. But I think as we go through the play, you'll see where he sort of gains more confidence in himself. And I think people are going to be surprised at how the play ends with that particular character.
So, what are some factors in the play that people will be able to recognize when it comes to like mental health and just trauma overall, childhood trauma, whatever the case may be?
Amen. I mentioned earlier about participants, some of the participants in the 1811 Louisiana Slave Rebellion who were actually beheaded. And can
Mm-hmm.
you imagine, Ron, how that image of the survivors who actually saw something like that, can you imagine the impact that that had on them? And
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the things that sort of weaves its way through the play because the character Junie, his grandmother was a participant in the 18 Louisiana Slave Rebellion, and she was one of the people whose heads was actually, she was beheaded in the case. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of her young children actually saw that. And from the time the child was 6 years old to the time the person died, when she was in like her 70s, she always remembered that, always talked about,
Mm-hmm.
Philomela's head and just couldn't get that image out of her mind. And
Mm-hmm.
so the character Jimmy had to hear that all the time. And he had nightmares about that from childhood to like a grown man in a sense. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's hoping that one day, so while he's on the plantation, is to kind of get a relic from that particular insurrection. He really believes just taking this relic, having in possession of it, will really sort of reduce a lot of the childhood trauma that he experienced, and hopefully he won't pass that trauma down on to the next
Mm-hmm.
generation of his family.
That's one thing that I will say about the black family, families in general, but especially the black family or black families, is that a lot of childhood trauma or just trauma in general is passed down from generation to generation because let's be real, uh, a lot of us, and I think you can attest to this as well. A lot of us, when we were growing up, we were meant to be seen and not heard. I always said it on my show. We were meant to be seen and not heard. And you don't realize the trauma, whatever trauma, it passes down. it just passes down, and someone has to break that cycle.
Definitely,
Right.
definitely. I tell you, one of the more interesting conversations that I had with my father, he just sat me down. I was maybe about 10 years old, and we
Hmm.
were living in Monroe at the time. And he said, "Hal, you're entering an age when don't be surprised when some of your friends will start dying and things of this nature." I was like, what are you talking about, Dad? Come on.
Mm. Hmm.
2 years after that, during a football game on another street in the neighborhood, one of my childhood friends was actually stabbed to death by his own cousin. So here I
Wow.
was 12 years old. That was really my first time really experiencing something like that. And
Hmm.
then from that time on, Ron, to gosh, almost like my early 40s, I mean, I could really count, maybe
Hmm.
about 30 something people I knew personally who had been murdered. How about that? You know?
Yeah, and
Mm.
I kind of had the same conversation. I think I was maybe a little older. I think I was about 15 or 16, and I was had like 2 years left in high school. My mom's oldest brother, uh, Calvin, sat me down. My uncle Calvin, and he said, he was always, we always had a open relationship. We always had a. He said, if you ever need me, you can talk to me. So he sat me down and he was like, basically what your dad told you. You're at an age right now where you're about to graduate. You're about to start seeing different things, and he was absolutely right. I started seeing friends passing away, friends getting involved in things that I wasn't involved in or had no interest in being involved in. And then now at the age of 42, I'm like, I can literally count on my hand and talk about how many friends I've lost due to whatever the case may be. And, I lost my grandmother 9 years ago. And those feelings never leave you. Those feelings never leave you. And with my own mental health journey, I started going to counseling about maybe 2 years ago. And it's amazing when you sit in front of someone else who you don't know, who has an unbiased opinion of you. Um, it's amazing how you find out more about yourself. Uh, when you tap into your own trauma and you tap into your own issues with your mental health.
I
So
tell you.
yeah, how has this play helped you uh, with your mental health?
Yeah, well, I would say just how playwriting overall, not just this particular play, but all of my plays, has
Hmm.
helped me tremendously with my own mental health. People say how oftentimes your plays deal with committed violence. And so I said,
Hmm.
well, it's sort of reflective of just some of the violence that I experienced and some of the violence that I knew about
Yeah,
as,
yeah, definitely.
as a younger person. So
Hmm.
the writing really helps out. Another thing that helps out, Ron, and I would really say I didn't get into this until the pandemic on a consistent basis, is meditation. There's
Mm.
not a day that I do not get up in the morning without doing at least 20 minutes of meditation. Start with my prayers first, but then just the meditation, affirmations, etc. I've got these headphones on, I'm listening, I'm breathing, I'm taking it all in. And then, fortunately for me, my wife, who I've been married to now for 38 years, she's a licensed clinical social worker. So
Okay.
I'm able to kind of take advantage of her and get some free counseling when I need it. So,
Right. Right.
so there's a in-house hookup with that. So it's a combination of things that really help me on a daily basis in terms of my mental health journey. And one of the
Hmm.
things that meditation has helped me out with is just it really has just brought a calmness to my life that I really never thought that I would actually encounter. Behind the scenes, privately, before we would get into sort of like some challenges, maybe at work or what have you. I mean, gosh, I'd be back there cussing, I still try to come out with a nice smile, but sometimes it wouldn't be so nice. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh man.
now I see, as a result of doing this on a daily basis, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm pretty much even keel all the time. There are times when I get a little angry, there's no question about it. But for
Right.
the most part, I'm able to get into situations, really take them for what they are in a sense, and take that breath before I answer.
Mm-hmm.
Take a breath. If I get an email that might come off as a little off-putting. So I'll just hold on. If I don't have to answer that email today, I'll answer it tomorrow, maybe once I
Right.
calm down. Or draft it a few times just to make sure that I'm not responding to the
Right.
energy that this particular email is giving me. So the meditation, man, is really paying good dividends for me.
One of the things, man, that I learned, and you can relate to this well, working in the radio business is, you know, the dump button. And I follow a pastor on YouTube, and I was paying attention to one of his sermons, and it inspired a post of mine a couple of weeks back, and it said that, you know, we wish, like in radio, we had that 7 second delay button or 10-second delay button to take something that we said back, or at least give us enough time to settle down and at least think before we respond to something. I've been in many situations working in radio, and this is one of the things that you didn't tell me. I had to learn this on my own, where I've went off and I've said exactly how I felt, and then when I get home and I settle down, I'm like, hindsight being 20, like, damn, I shouldn't have said that. So I will say that I'm starting to meditate and get into my faith a lot more, and just really talk to God more on a personal level, especially early in the morning when nobody's around and everything is quiet, and I can just kind of settle down and get my thoughts together. So I want to get back into the play with you, but before I do that, I want to give my listening and viewing audience my social media handles, man. You can follow me on Facebook. Just search for the Ron Rich or Ron Richardson Facebook page. You can also follow me on Instagram. Just search for Ronald_Richardson_Jr. on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn, TikTok, and I'm new to Substack, man. You can see what I'm doing in my everyday life and my mental health journey. And I'm also a disability advocate and different things like that. So, Hal, I want you to do the same thing. Give people your social media handles and how they can get in contact with you, especially with the play coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, sure. So one place you can go for the page is LaPetitTheatre.com. That's where you can kind of inquire about the times of the play, and you can also inquire about tickets. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook at Hal Clark, and I'm on Instagram at Ellis Clark Jr.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I want to dig deep into the play, man. What else can people who plan on attending this play look forward to in?
Yeah, I think what people will probably appreciate most is the view of history that we have throughout the play. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Another inspiration for the play is Isaiah Dorman. Isaiah Dorman was the only black man to participate in and die with General
Mm-hmm.
Custer, Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876. He
Right.
knew several Native American languages. He served the U.S. Army as an interpreter. He was married to a Sioux woman, and he knew Chief Sitting Bull. And so had always been looking for an opportunity to kind of tell his story through one of my plays. And so we have
Mm-hmm.
uh, we'll touch on that. We'll also touch on Algiers. I grew up in Algiers, left Algiers when I was 10 years old on 10th Street. And so Algiers was was very, very big with slave trade. That was where a lot of the new slaves came to because the port there in Algiers, and they came there to be prepped to be sold. And so you've got a lot of history there from Algiers that is also infused into the play. And then you
Mm-hmm.
also have a history of you see people of color and just a lot of the things that they did to fight for freedom, integrating the rail car, et cetera, things of that nature. And so we're going to use a lot of that there. But some of it sounds a little serious and some of it is, but this is the entertainment business, like I tell people. And so We always
Right.
like to make certain that our plays have people going through a variety of emotions. So hopefully you'll laugh, hopefully you'll cry, maybe we'll see, and but hopefully people
Mhm.
will enjoy it. I think we got a really good story that's been working on for maybe about the past 7 years that I think people will probably enjoy. Hopefully.
Uh, what is the hardest thing, uh, in your opinion, about being a writer and someone who produces material such as you do?
Yeah, well, the thing is that you can't put a play on by yourself. That's the thing.
Right.
And so one of the biggest challenges is finding people to work with whom you can trust. I tell you, that is the biggest thing. And when you find those people, you got to gravitate toward them. People kind of look and say, well, gosh, I was working with this person, with this person. Well, that's because that's we can trust these people. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Everybody's got, their own personality or what have you. But at the bottom line, you're just trying to work with people who do what they say they're going to do. That's one of the hardest things about the whole playwriting business or the entertainment business.
Hmm.
But that's probably is the biggest thing. Is really, really trying to make certain that you're working with people who are of like-mindedness and who are really, really about promoting what the play is about the people and hopefully to get people to experience.
All right. So before we close, Mr. Clark, what's next for you, sir?
Yeah, well, I can't honestly say what's next for me. I think the next thing for me is August 18th and 16th is getting through this particular play.
Hmm.
Rehearsals are going great. We've got our last rehearsal over at NOLA Spaces over on Taladano Street today. Then we're moving to La Petit Theatre next week. I'm just so pleased with this absolutely dynamic cast. I mean, they've really,
Right.
really been working hard and they really dug deep and really bring things out of it. So, my next thing is August 13th through the 16th, 5 performances only at La Petite Theatre. We just pray that people will come out and enjoy it.
All right, man. Well, give my listening and viewing audience the information one more time and a phone number where they can get in contact with someone about purchasing tickets if they want to attend this great event.
Yeah, sure. So it is Ganking Mr Guidry, a world premiere. It's produced by La Petite Theatre and the Whitney Plantation. We've also gotten some support from the Carol Sutton Memorial Grant in honor of the late actress Carol Sutton from here in New Orleans. The
Hmm.
play is Ganking Mr Guidry runs August 13th through the 16th at La Petite Theatre. LaPetiteTheatre.com is where you can find more information about the play's dynamic cast. I explained earlier. We just really believe that people will come, hopefully come out and have a good time.
One thing that I didn't, before we close, one thing that I didn't touch on is the word ganking. Uh,
Yeah,
it's a New Orleans based word, and we've been saying it for years. Before we close, I want you to give my listening and viewing audience the significance and meaning behind the word ganking because we know what it is, but some people don't. So break that down for us.
yeah. So the word just really started spoke to me actually about 10 years ago. I was just sitting down with a friend of mine and
Hmm.
they were talking about something was going on and they said, yeah, I got ganked. And so I'd heard the
Yeah,
word for years, but the way that the person talked about it and emphasized it, it just registered like in the back of my mind. I said, okay, I'm going to use that one day. That's what we do as writers. We hear things, we see things,
yeah,
we see the way people walk, we see the way people, we hear the way people talk, and we just
exactly.
follow the way we say, okay, we're going to use that one day. And so,
Hmm.
Ganking means to get over on somebody, steal something from someone.
Right,
And the group, NWA, I think they utilize it famously in some of their music. So,
right.
yeah, that's what ganking means. I don't think it was back in the late 1800s when ganking was
Yeah,
around, but it really spoke to me. And in
hmm.
the context of the play, I think ganking works very, very well.
I can remember first time I heard it, I was in I think sophomore year at LW Higgins, and a guy walked up to me that I knew. He was like, "Man, I got ganked," and I'm like, slang changes every day, and it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
what the hell does that mean? And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
gank. So I started using
yeah,
them like, man, I got ganked. But anyway, man, you know, All the best to you with this play, man, and big thanks for everything that you've done for me over the years, man. You followed me, you've always encouraged me, and I just want to personally thank you and wish you all the best.
So thank you so much, Ron, and I really wish you all the best with your new platform. Glad to see you moving and grooving with it, man. And I really, really pray that things continue to go great for you. Okay.
All right, man. This has been Conversations with Ron Richardson, the podcast with my main man, mentor, man, Mr. Hal Clark. All the best to you.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.